My name is Paul Vierthaler. I'm a Ph.D. candidate at Yale University, where I study East Asian languages and literature. Specifically, I study late Ming and early Qing fiction and how history is told in fictional narratives and official histories. Like I said, I work on late Ming and early Qing unofficial histories, and specifically there's a genre of text called yeshi. These are unofficial, or more literally translated, wild histories. And from about 1550 through the end of the 18th century, these were really popular texts. And people would start printing them in the aftermath of very important historical events, and they would introduce their readers to these events and to these people and start building narratives that would become very influential. And even though a lot of them were pulled from rumors that were circulating at the time, there's no evidence that they come from any sort of official historical sources, because they would talk about things that official histories just weren't really interested in. And they would tell these stories, and they would become told over and over again to the point where they almost become something like history. I think it does go back to how people are understanding their own histories, because this is something we see a lot on the internet these days with blogs, and people are telling stories about recent events that do have a lot of connections with things that really happened, but certain spins are placed on them. One of the larger implications of my project is this is actually a process that's been happening easily back into the 1550s in China, and certainly much further back than that. And this is a way to situate those newer experiences, although I don't specifically deal with that in my research. It's a reflection of how people are treating information now. And I think it's just really, it also helps people understand that in terms of American culture and Chinese culture and now and the past, that there's a lot of continuity between them in terms of how people are trying to come to terms with their own identities and their own past. By, I think, illuminating how historical meaning is made, this really does show people, well, people aren't actually that different around the world. The specifics are obviously significantly different, but the actual process of building these narratives and these understandings is really important. So when I look at my own research, I think that this is something that's valuable for people to understand, because it brings a little more peace, because people don't like to get mad at people who are the same in a lot of ways. There's been a lot that I've been able to do in terms of Taiwanese and American friendships and a lot of these connections, because I made a lot of very good friends here, both at work at the Academia Sinica. On a professional level, making these contacts will be really valuable for interlacing American research culture and Taiwanese research culture. But also, I've had, or will have, the opportunity at the end of June to speak with a lot of students who are at a buxiban in Taiwan, who are interested in studying abroad in the United States. And I'll be able to talk to them about the processes of applying and what life in graduate school in the United States is, what life in college in the US is. And I think through these sorts of outreaches, we can encourage more Taiwanese people to come to the United States to study. And when I go back, I will certainly be encouraging people to come here to conduct their research. Well, certainly the access to materials. There's an incredible wealth of materials available at the Academia Sinica at the National Library here that's very easily accessible. And that is extraordinarily valuable, because in the United States, if you're not at one of several very large East Asian libraries, it can be very difficult to access some of these older materials. That's a really big thing, and a lot of people do go to the mainland for their research, but I think I would encourage people to come to Taiwan also, because access to materials is often a little easier. Well, I think the first thing that really struck me after arriving here is how interested people here were to hear about the United States. Just our landlord and our neighbors and all of the connections that existed there. We ran into an elderly man in our building who actually went to college in the state that I grew up in, just as a sheer coincidence. So a lot of these random connections, I think, people don't realize how close the relationship between the United States and Taiwan really is. I think the extreme friendliness of everybody and how easy it is to live here is really, I think, something I can't emphasize enough in terms of the convenience of public transportation, the ease of finding food, how friendly everybody is. It's just, a really, really good place to come and live. It's been a remarkably smooth experience, and I feel very fortunate because of that.